Good evening, everyone. Board Member Kerr, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, if you could all please stand, face the flag. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So it's nice to see some of you here, social distancing in the audience. Welcome to anybody that's tuning in from home. We welcome those who are here for the purposes of addressing the board at this proper time and in the order of their request. For those who have not already submitted a request, we have provided forms in the back of the room and also have additional copies here in the front at the Assistant Secretary's position. If you wish to speak during this meeting, please fill out a form indicating your name and the agenda item you wish to address. You may also make a request to give testimony on an item not listed on the discussion today. However, full discussion on any items not listed on the agenda will have to be delayed until such a time as the item can be publicly posted in advance as a regular agenda item. If you wish to ask questions, please address them to the chair and not to individual members of the board or to the staff. The board has been meeting in closed session regarding matters listed on today's closed session agenda. In closed session today, the board voted to approve a resignation / retirement and general release agreement with a classified employee, resolving all claims between the parties and providing for consideration. The vote was unanimous with all 5 members of the board voting by roll call to approve. Dr. Williams, our board president, has asked me to run tonight's meeting, so I will proceed and try to fill some big shoes tonight. And I'll ask my colleagues here to put me in line in case I step out of our normal protocol. I'm sure everyone's going to give me the look tonight.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Meyer, if he was here, he'd say that you were the thorn between two roses. I just have to channel. I just have to channel our colleague. Now, he'd say that, you know that. He said he was going to be here in
I
disguise.
feel the love already. Board Member Craig Henry.
I didn't say that.
Wow.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. That's right. That's right. So, public hearing, we have none. A call for agenda items for separate action and adoption of the agenda as posted.
Yes, staff would like to pull Finance Report B at this time.
Can I get a motion?
I move approval
Second.
of the agenda as amended. Thank you.
And then you're seconding?
Yes, I did, yes.
Discussion. Okay, I'm going to do a roll call today for the 3 of us that are here. I'll start with Board Member Craighead. How do we vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, so we have 3 ayes amending the agenda. Approval of minutes.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. Board Member Craighead?
No. I mean, aye. I meant no discussion. This is going to be complicated.
Board Member Kerr? Aye. And I vote aye as well, so 3 ayes, all of us here today. Communications, none. Public testimony on items listed on the agenda, we have none. Correct? Staff report, none. Public testimony on items not listed on the agenda, we have none. Okay. Business items, let's move right into personnel.
Yes. On behalf of Mr. Meyer, I present the following proposed actions prepared by the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resource Services, approved and recommended by the superintendent. For classified and exempt personnel, we have 92 appointments, 6 leaves of absence, 1 suspension without pay, 2 terminations of service, 18 resignations, 5 retirements, 3 amendments, and for certificated personnel, we have 12 appointments, 8 in-service changes, 21 leaves of absence, 5 resignations, 12 retirements, 1 amendment, 1 rescission, and I move approval.
Second.
Discussion? Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well, 3 ayes. Instruction.
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
I just want to mention that the intro to costume design sounds pretty fun. That's at Renaissance. It's also good for elective credit and part of the A through G requirements. And that's, that one stood out to me.
Any further discussion? Call the vote. Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr? Aye. I also vote aye, so 3 ayes. Finance Report A.
Second.
Any discussion? Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
I also vote aye, so 3 ayes. Finance Report B.
Move approval.
Actually, we pulled it.
Oh,
We
so
pulled
we
it.
pulled that.
Thank
We
you.
pulled it.
We pulled it.
We pulled it.
Vote on
Thank you. Business Department Report.
Move approval.
Second.
Any discussion? Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
I also vote aye, 3 ayes. Purchasing and Contracts Report.
Approval.
Second.
Discussion. Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so 3 ayes. Superintendent items, we have none. Unfinished business, we have none. So we will move on to new business. First item is a 2021 schedule of board education meetings and workshops.
Move. Second?
Discussion.
Just a clarification that this was just an adjustment, a day or two on either side, and certainly there's a conversation about what and how board meetings will be conducted moving forward in light of any restrictions on movement. So
Correct.
This is for now, these dates, unless we have to.
Right.
Right.
I do have any further discussion?
No.
I do have a question, in as much as it impacts our scheduling of board meetings. Maybe this is a Brent question. We have, on 2 different occasions at least, talked about what we would have to do for board reorg in July, whether we make a decision at that point to either extend current board roles and or do a board reorg in July and then again in December. I know that was one of the pending items that we were going to do more research and get more information on, Brent. Any updates on that at this point?
Yeah, you'll be updated on that. I think it's at the next meeting, which is going to be in April, so we'll give you some additional information on that. We'll actually bring an item forward for the board.
Okay, thank you, Brent.
You're welcome.
So similar to Board Member Kerr's comments, I just advise all of our community members to stay posted on our social media platforms, on our district website, in case there are changes, and there will obviously be changes to our protocols as well. So please stay posted on those, and we ask for your patience as well as we're trying to be nimble here as a district and as a board. So further discussion? Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
I also vote aye, so 3 ayes. Next item, award of lease-leaseback contract for the Emerson Elementary School's HVA project. Mr. David Miranda, will you come up and brief us?
Yes, good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Steinhauser, executive staff, and our audience. Really excited to be here this evening and speak to the Emerson award of a lease-leaseback contract. A little bit of background information for your reference. In March of 2017, the board adopted a resolution approving procedures for evaluating the qualifications of lease-leaseback contracts in accordance with AB 2316. Now, what AB 2316 did was amend Education Code 17400 and 17406, which basically provide a framework for the solicitation and award of these type of agreements. Specifically, it really called out for a process whereby we can award based on best value and absolutely doing so based on a competitive process as well. Following that resolution, really over the course of the next year, district staff proceeded with issuing an RFQ. That RFQ allowed us to establish a pool of contractors that are in essence pre-qualified to perform these type of services for the district. Last year in 2019, the district issued a specific RFP, so in essence we make them compete at another layer. We issued another RFP for specifically for the Emerson HVAC project. We received 5 proposals from contractors out of the 10 that are on the pre-qualified pool. evaluated the proposals based on a number of different criteria, including performance of the specific staff, the strength of the firm's local hire program and commitment to the hire program, pre-construction services, and of course, cost of the program. Based on that criteria, it's been determined 2H Construction out of Signal Hill, a local firm, provided the best value to the district for this specific project, and we're recommending award of a lease-leaseback contract for the Emerson HVAC project to 2H Construction for a guaranteed project cost of $16,085,684.
Any questions for Mr. Miranda?
No. Second.
Discussion? Quick question, Mr. Miranda.
Yes.
What's meant by in the total amount, which, you express as a little bit over 60 million, what constitutes district-controlled contingency?
Yes, so in essence, for unforeseen conditions, right? The reason we title it district-controlled versus other contracts whereby the contractor can control a part of that, we want to sit there and be the approver of that, right? Okay. So as a contractor points out an issue, or the architect or other team member does, the district is the ultimate approver of whether or not that is in fact a change to the construction documents.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion?
No.
Ms. Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Kerr? Aye. I also vote aye, so 3 ayes on that item, and I'm going to ask you to remain standing there, Mr. Miranda. Next item is our Asset Management Advisory Committee report for recommendations for non-educational sites and selection of, for non-educational sites.
Perfect. So again, just a brief report and some background on this topic. So staff has spent the better part of the last 7 or 8 months assessing the district's non-education sites, really including their management, their use to ensure that we're being efficient and serving the best interests of the district, right? That includes whether these facilities are all centrally located so we can best serve students, staff, and our parent community. As such, the board and the district authorized convening the Asset Management Committee in August of 2019. We did so pursuant to Ed Code sections 17388 through 17390. The Ed Code specifically calls out a process for the Asset Management Committee, which we in fact followed. The Ed Code also references the Constitution and the number of members that sit on this committee, right? So I want to take this moment to acknowledge the committee and thank them for their hard work. They volunteered, participated in 7 meetings throughout the course of that 8 month period. And I just want to name them briefly, right? So, and again, this is a committee comprised of community representatives. There's a teacher rep, there's landowners and renter type reps, as we call them, parent and guardian reps as well. Really a good formation. So Christine Kelly, Kathleen Hill, Marlene Gums, Michael Slaughter, Rena Gunian, Ray Sharp, and our chair, Rick Turrentine. All did a great job. Participated throughout, chimed in on the process throughout. So the properties, so there was 7 non-educational district properties that were reviewed. 2 of the properties are currently vacant. One has been vacant since 2014, the other since 2017. So they've been vacant for a good chunk of time. The other 5 we deem active. They're currently in use with a number of district programs in these facilities. The committee, again, based on the Ed Code requirements, met regularly, met 7 times. One of those meetings was a public hearing, which we're required and mandated to do. There was no comments made during the public hearing, which took place in February, but we definitely checked that box. There was a number of informational and data points that we shared with the committee members, again, as required for Ed Code. Some of that included maintenance cost, enrollment data, demographic data, and title reports and information as well. Committee made a number of findings. Those included really just stating the fact that these are in fact all non-educational sites, non-school sites. 2 of them are in fact vacant. They referenced the fact and pointed out the fact that yes, the ongoing maintenance and operational costs do create a financial burden going forward. They noted the fact that these properties are dispersed across several sites and that could be deemed inefficient. They also noted and really attested to the fact that enrollment has declined, right? So another factor for consideration. The committee then made a recommendation. They broke it up in terms of the vacant sites and active sites. And really all we're doing this evening is requesting that the board accept this report. This really is what we would deem as step 1 in this surplus process or disposition process. We would then return to the board with further analysis on every one of these properties.
I move approval.
Second.
Discussion.
So I just want to reiterate that what we are voting on is just that we have accepted this report.
Accepting the report at this point in time, really acknowledging the fact that we went through the process pursuant to Education Code.
Thank you.
Further discussion.
Nope, that was my question.
I want to highlight a couple things, Mr. Miranda. I think it's important to note as part of the report that by surplusing and disposing the non-vacant sites, these resources could then be expended to maintaining vacant sites and could be relocated to other facilities, right? So it's important to highlight that this isn't just about disposing of surplus, right? That there are things that could be done with that. And along the same lines, by relocating and consolidating services and staff at the non-vacant sites to be at more central locations, this would also create efficiency in administrative operation and lowering operating costs for the district, right? So I appreciate the rationale here with the report. So I want to thank you,
Most certainly.
you and the members for all the work that was done. Any further discussion?
No, yeah, thank you to the community members who took the time. 7 meetings is kind of a lot over the last couple of months. We know people are busy, so we're appreciative that people are interested in helping to serve the district.
Absolutely.
Now let's figure out how to sell those vacant sites, right?
That's right.
Further discussion?
No.
So, Board Member Craighead, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Kerr?
Aye.
And I also vote aye, so that's 3 ayes. Thank you, David. We have an informational item. Ms. Ashley, could you give us an update on the selection of the new superintendent of schools?
Yes, Vice President Benitez, I would be honored to. So we have concluded Phase 2 of our public outreach efforts, and that ended on March 6th. And at our last board meeting, I believe I gave you a little bit of an update on the feedback we've been getting from our community forums. But we did conduct 6 community forums, 9 district stakeholder group meetings, and the thought exchange. So in looking at the feedback from our community forums, there were some underlying themes that were also reflected in our thought exchange, and I'll just highlight a few of those. So from our community forums, the superintendent should embody the following values: being student-centered, someone who's empathetic, honest, trustworthy, has an equity mindset, thick-skinned, and displays ethical leadership. They want a leader who is able to build consensus, have community partnerships, and collaborative. They believe in having equitable practices for students of color and protected classes. In our thought exchange that ended on March 6th, there were 377 participants. Of those participants, they made 525 responses and gave 11,761 total ratings. I'll give you the top 5 themes that came up, and again, they're reflected in the feedback that we received from our community forums. Someone who is student-centered, a superintendent who values and asks for suggestions, recommendations about education from teachers. This next one is a statement that said, I believe the next superintendent should be open-minded, willing to make changes to established practices if it is in the best interest of students. Someone who has shown a history of integrity and moral ethical behavior, and someone who is equity-driven and student-centered. So that was our Phase 2. We are in Phase 3, where we have the application and screening process. And I really want to thank the members who have participated in our advisory committee. We met on March 9th for orientation, and they also developed an interview protocol and developed a robust system. And we just finished our first round of interviews this past Monday. There were 10 applicants. We interviewed 6 candidates and have narrowed it down to 2 finalists. So that will be coming up, where all 5 board members and Brent North will engage in an interview process with the 2 finalists on April 6th. So we are on schedule.
Any questions for Ms. Ashley?
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. I really appreciated the process. I really appreciated having those town hall meetings and hearing from the community. And hearing people's concerns. I just want to say that I sat there so proud, meeting after meeting, because everything that people talked about were things that are already being done and qualities that our current superintendent already possesses. And so that felt really good, and I know you don't want to hear this, but it just felt really good to know that everything that people mentioned as a quality they wanted in a superintendent is something that currently resides in our superintendent. And I think what people are really saying is these things are important. They've seen how these things make a difference, and that's what they want to see us continue with. So I appreciate that process, and I appreciate hearing from all of those who came out and provided us with that information.
I want to echo that as well. I think it would be good standard practice for us to have other opportunities to have these community check-ins. Obviously, after our COVID-19 state of affairs, gets behind us. But I so appreciated having the opportunity to listen primarily to our community members in venues in their neighborhoods, right? So at some point, I'll still bring back an agenda item to consider how we can have some of these board meetings at the very least, or town hall meetings at our respective neighborhood schools. So thank you, Ms. Ashley. Thank you to all the staff that really made sure that we had a community-driven process and that we had plenty of opportunities for our stakeholders to provide input to inform these candidates that we got, and that will be the basis for us making a decision moving forward with our finalists.
Thank you. It definitely takes a team, so I just want to give a big shout out to our OMS team who showed up faithfully, our staff who was there taking notes as everyone was giving feedback, and I really appreciate everyone's help, but mostly I was just so proud of all of our speakers who came out. It was pretty remarkable.
Thank you.
And I'll just echo those as well and thank those who reached out to us personally as board members, either through text messages or emails, or caught us in Trader Joe's or Starbucks or wherever it is that we were, to give their input, and to my colleagues for being open to that, because I know it's not always convenient, especially Dr. Benitez, if you're with your daughter, to get pulled aside for just a couple of minutes. But we so value that, and we're grateful that you do stop us, because we know you're invested in the system. So to all of you who gave input in any format, we take all of that into the room with us as we move forward in decision making.
That's right. So keep doing it, right, community members? Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts on our selection of superintendent of schools process? Thank you, Ms. Ashley. So moving on to report of board members. Board member Craig Head.
Yes, kind of in lieu of a report, I thought maybe I would address the issue of how we deal with our kids in this coronavirus situation. So I kind of jotted down some notes that I could share for those of us who have kids at home, and some of the kids are bigger than others, but anyhow, so just be open to their questions. You know, kids have a lot of questions. Let them know that it's okay to ask, and only answer the questions they ask. Don't give more information than you need to. Sometimes that gets a little bit tricky, and sometimes just knowing that kids will ask over and over again, and there are different reasons for that, but just allowing them to do that in a safe place. And kind of on a logistical note, teach them how to wash their hands properly. Kids do a good job when we show them, you know, what the expectations are, and just remind them to do that. And that's always a good practice just going forward. Maybe don't have the news on 24/7. Maybe only watch the news at certain times. It can be overwhelming, not just for kids, but for us as adults. There's a lot of information coming at us, so to be careful with that. And then kids are watching what we do. They pay attention to how we behave, how we treat others. So as adults, we should be modeling good behavior. When we go to the store, maybe not be impatient as somebody is reaching for something in front of you or that kind of thing. We need to provide calm for our kids and a safe place. And then just a last thought. Things have been, dark and gloomy and rainy. Try and find the sunshine. And I kind of mean that in two different ways. The other day when it was real rainy and dark, the clouds parted and there was some sun. And there was a room in my house that the sun was coming in, and I grabbed something to read, and I sat there and I just had sunshine on me for a little bit, and it really made a difference. And it was a little bit of a mood booster. Hopefully the weather is improving and that won't be as hard to do, but if we can just remember to take some time for ourselves and maybe, meditate or just consider our blessings, it really helps, because things are very overwhelming. And I know especially with the group that's in this room right now, it's mostly executive staff. You're working real hard and you're working long hours and you're looking out for everybody else. But take some time for yourself, because we rely on you. We really rely on you. You're doing a great job. And for those parents at home, you're doing a great job, but you have to take some time for yourself. It's like that, being on the airplane, you have to put that oxygen mask on yourself first before you can help others, and we have to keep that in mind. So those are my words of advice for today.
Thank you, Board Member. Board Member Kerr.
Yes, and I'll just echo that. We know that there's so much going on. It's hard. I have a really nervous college student who had to come home in the middle of a semester. And she's sad and doesn't want to be home, but she's really glad that she's home. So there's so many conflicting emotions for our kids. So I will ask us all to be kind and have grace, especially with our seniors. It's tough. This isn't what they pictured for their senior year. So for our seniors and our promoting kids this year, we get it. We understand. We wish it were different for you. I know Ms. Craig had probably had little ones around the time of the September 11th attacks. I had a 9-month-old at the time, and so that constant worry we know is happening now. So to our students, know that we're here, we get you, we're doing everything we can. And in that vein, I want to thank Drs. Baker and Brown for going on camera even to keep our community and our kids updated. The number of parents who have reached out to tell me that they watch your video a couple of times a day, Dr. Brown, it's important that you're talking directly to them. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for explaining about the haircut, because I did get a couple text messages. So thank you for holding what's important to you important to us. So thank you for that as well. To Mark Chavez and your entire nutrition services team, wow, have you done an amazing, amazing thing. I think sometimes in Long Beach we're a victim of our own success in that we are smaller communities and we appear super nimble, and we forget that we're 70,000 kids and 10,000 employees and massive systems. And you made a tremendous pivot over a few days, and that speaks to your leadership and to the quality of the team that is doing the hands-on work, and to Yumi for the quality of team who's helping facilitate that behind the scenes in terms of paperwork and finances and all of that. I couldn't be more proud of the work that especially our nutrition services are doing to keep kids and families fed. And we know that that might continue to be necessary for a while. So thank you for stepping up to the challenge. To our public information and OMS teams, you have been at the heart of making sure this community feels safe and valued and listened to and informed. So thank you to all of you for all that you are doing in very non-traditional ways at all kinds of hours on the weekends and at night. I am grateful. So I know the superintendent will give a more robust report, because nobody's here to listen to us. They're really here to hear what he has to say, and we'll chime in on that. But the deep gratitude we have and the tremendous team that this district is to make such a drastic change in a week. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Kerr. So I'm going to keep my comments short as well, because our exec staff, as they have been doing, shouldn't be spending time in here with us. We should be all focused on our students' health and education, as well as our families and staff. So I'll keep my comments short, but in the spirit of what my fellow colleagues up here have expressed. These are extremely challenging and uncertain times. So I would ask our community members that are watching us or will watch this video later, because we are now a hub of communication for our entire community, to please stay vigilant, but be patient, right? Especially as our district is deploying every single resource, talent available to us. Our superintendent, as Board Member Kerr referred to, will give a general update today on our meals services, on our home/distance learning opportunities that are coming up, as well as some other general updates. But we really shouldn't be spending our time with all the details here during this board meeting. We should let our staff and our executive staff and our partners execute at this point, so that we can all come together, and we'll get through this. I know we will, in shining colors, as this district has a history of doing. So please remain vigilant, but we do ask for your patience and helping us move forward together. And I want to again thank everyone that's making sure that our kids continue to be safe and educated, as well as our families and staff. So I want to thank my colleagues for that as well. So I know folks are patiently waiting for our superintendent to give some updates and reports.
First of all, I want to thank the board for having trust in the staff. We wouldn't be able to do our job if we didn't have that trust, because things are changing literally on a minute-by-minute basis. So, and I want to thank the staff here, from Dr. Baker, the entire exec staff, all of our workers. It's remarkable what's happened. I'm obviously very biased about this district, but in a crisis you see this, and this is really, really important. Mr. Chavez, and to Jose Delmore and his team, operations, unbelievable what I have seen, and I know the entire team has seen. Today, they served over 6,000 lunches, which is a huge increase from our first day. Over 2,000 breakfasts were served, and we still have schools who haven't given us the data yet, so those numbers will be higher. But the thank you from the parents through every geographic area of this community has been unbelievable. And a huge shout out to our partners at the city, and Dr. Brown is our point person with the health department, and we are so blessed to have our own health department. And I know people sometimes challenge why we have our own health department. I'll be the first one walking the streets why that is critical and always has to be here. The mayor, everybody, the city manager, we are in constant contact on a daily basis. There's so much happening behind the scenes. I want to also say, I want to echo what's been said about taking care of ourselves, because we do. That's really important, and we all need to remind ourselves and be supportive, and we have to laugh. Thank you for that intro to the meeting. We have to laugh, because the other option is to cry. No, we don't want to cry. But I do want to say this, though, is the kindness goes a million miles. People are scared, and for a variety of reasons. People react differently in crisis for different reasons, and so we don't have all the answers. Like an employee told me the other day, she had some answers she had some questions I didn't have the answers to. But I went back and talked to her, and she said, I appreciate that, because we know how difficult this is, and we are pushing on you guys. But she said, you know what? We're here for the kids. And that's truly the case. And I just want to remind everybody of that. And the meal program will go forth, and more information about how it might be modified a little bit will happen. But I do want to also tell our employees that we sent out notice today, and thank you, Mrs. Ashley, and others for leading this, an FAQ to our employees on some critical questions that they have. And so they all received that today. And there will be others coming down as laws change. So just today, a law was passed in Washington, and we're studying how does that impact us. So for example, all employees who are what we call any type of full-time equivalent, which means I might work 10% permanently or 100%, they're all being paid. But the big question is our hourly employees, for example, our substitutes and others, they're not getting paid right now unless they have an FTE piece of it. Well, as these laws change at the state and the national level and how they impact us, we will address those issues on a regular basis. Poor Yumi's team, I mean, in all divisions, this is a ramp up. This is truly a war. And this is where you see things where everyone's ramping up every piece of it. And I couldn't be more proud of what's happening in our district. And on the instructional piece, because that's what we're here for. We're here for kids and helping our kids with learning options. I'm going to turn it to Dr. Baker, and she can give some highlights about what's happening because, again, that piece of the machine has been wonderful. And I just want to highlight this before we go. You know, I'm ending my career, and all these visitors who come here say, how do you guys do it? The business side of the house and the instruction side of the house work 100% together, and that's not common. So thank you. I just want to say it.
So, thanks, Chris. Just a few highlights, because this is going to be a significant shift for us come Monday. And so we are moving from a week of pause to give us an opportunity to be really intentional, to take input from different people around what we want to move out in terms of learning opportunities. So we're moving from this week of pause to 3 weeks of home learning opportunities for general education and special education students. And when we say home learning opportunities, right now we're talking about relevant and standards-based, ungraded assignments. And so in the next few days, we have a sequence of communications that are going to go out through principals and directly to teachers, and a whole infrastructure that, believe it or not, has come to fruition in the last 2 days. That came from a vision for designing how do we want families and staff to be able to access things in the simplest way possible. And so staff has just come together across departments. Ms. Secchi's not here tonight, but I'll represent her in talking about this work too, because she's had curriculum staff just working tirelessly. So come Monday, families will be receiving information after teachers have an online staff meeting with their principals. And by noontime, we expect to push out all kinds of, through all of our mechanisms, push out the information to families about how to access that, as well as to provide hard copies at our school sites alongside the meal service in ways that is readily accessible materials for students if they're not accessing it via technology. At the same time, we have an order in for hotspots for families in need of internet service. Those have not landed yet, but we'll be in communication with our families about how to access internet service. And the hotspots themselves each serve 10 different devices on one spot. So you could have a family or 2 families co-locating that could all be using the same hotspot. In addition, before this week ends, the level offices and schools will be distributing all different kinds of Chromebooks for students who have not yet accessed either our Generation 4 Chromebooks that we gave away already, or school site Chromebooks. Believe it or not, it takes a little effort to take the Chromebooks out of their carts, get the plugs ready to send home, but staff is out in schools and in some other central locations getting that ready to happen for students who may still need to have a device. And then if they have a device but not internet access, then we'll be providing that at a future point when the hotspots arrive.
I would just add a couple things. One, this reminds me of how Long Beach rallied in the Long Beach earthquake. You know, they conducted schools, and if you remember, over half the schools were destroyed at that time. That's why we have the Field Act for the entire state of California. The other piece is that in all tough times, there are silver linings. So there are going to be some new opportunities for us as we go forward, new learnings, and it will be much better. And so we just have to remind ourselves that. And then the third piece is the biggest thing that's been happening today is I've received numerous calls from parents and others about the statement that was made that schools would be closing. No decision to close the schools for the remainder of the year has taken place. And if that happens, obviously we'll be in communication with everybody. But we are taking this, our direction from Sacramento, from our partners here, and we will make a promise to everybody that we will keep in constant communication. And on that note, I want to thank OMS, I want to thank Chris Itzen and Chris E. What they're doing is amazing on all platforms. I want to thank our new stars, Dr. Baker and Dr. Brown. Videos are alive and well. and more videos will be coming with other partners, kids and others. So again, I'm so proud of what's happening. None of us want to be in this situation, but we're going to make the best of it.
Thank you. Announcements, board members?
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Dr. Baker, you talked about this relevant learning for students, for all students. Could you speak to some specifics around our special education students and how that's inclusive of that in a way that maybe just gives a little bit more detail, not the whole shebang, but
Yeah, and
a little more?
before Dr. Brown talks also, just remember the difference between 3 weeks before our spring break time also may look different if our closure gets extended beyond that. So just want to kind of put a pin on that. And then just to have you think about, there's a lot out in the system right now about universities going to online learning. So there is a difference between learning at the university level and learning for K-12 kids. And so as much as we can, be patient with our teachers who are going to do the best that they can, but it's very different in K-12 to go from a classroom where you can create all of these amazing experiences as our teachers do, and then to do it behind a computer. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you for the question. So the phrase all means all teaches us in lots of different ways. And one of the things that is very important is that we provide the same opportunities to all of our students, recognizing that our students may access those opportunities differently. And so as we've really worked in the last week and really intentionally in the last couple of days, what we'll be providing will be a set of supplemental resources that will be for students with special needs, just like what we will be providing for students in general education. And we'll be getting into the details about that as we roll things out to our whole system on Monday. But I thank you for asking. I know that there are a number of questions from our community of parents who have children with special needs. And our message right now is that our first set of rollout will be in the next 3 weeks. And that'll be with supplemental resources like what everybody else is receiving. And then as we plan forward from that time, we'll be able to answer some of the other questions that are coming up about services, et cetera. Thank you for asking.
Thanks.
Thank you for the report. Any announcements, colleagues?
Do we want to talk about census?
Yeah.
So Dr. Benitez usually takes the piece about the census, and people aren't quite thinking about the census this week as they were at the same level that we were a few weeks ago, but how absolutely critical that is. Almost more so is it defined that we need to count everyone so we have resources for everyone. I received my envelope with my code. I'm assuming some of you did as well, and I would encourage you to do it now. You've got some time. Have your students help you. Maybe that's an assignment during the day, as they can go gather some data and then bring it back and you can input it in your household. But I think we have to have bigger conversations as we're talking about getting waivers for different things in education, and tax deadlines are extending, and census deadlines, I believe, firmly should be extended as well. But if you have it, do it, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll add a couple more things to that, but Board Member Craig, any
Announcement.
announcements?
I don't have any announcements.
Okay. I have a few announcements, all relevant to our superintendent report. One announcement is more information is coming. I can't stress that enough, particularly around frequently asked questions for our employees, our home learning opportunities, and our meal services being adjusted next week. So I would ask this as an announcement. Not all of our students, community members, and families have access to the information for many reasons. So here's how we can rally as a community, or as many communities, let's say. Let's share those announcements with as many people as we can. We have meals being served at our schools. It may not be, there may not be a sense of urgency right now, but let's take advantage of those resources that are explicitly being deployed to fulfill our mission around the health and education of children. So my announcement is announcing that we should be helping each other sharing these announcements that we have. Not everyone may be aware. I had a conversation with some parents of students yesterday, as I was trying to find some milk to pick up. They weren't aware that our schools were distributing meals. So not through any fault of their own, but times are tough, right? So let's rally, really, particularly around those students that are most vulnerable right now, our students in our foster care system, our students and families experiencing homelessness, our students and families that don't have access to internet, our students and families that, for many reasons, are in the shadows, whether it be because of their immigration status, whether it be because of a different learning ability, for many, many reasons, their own health concerns. So we need to engage and support each other during these difficult and challenging times. So that's my second announcement. My second to last is related to the census. So even if you do not get a code, you can still go online, www.census.gov. You don't need a code. It's just one additional layer. If you don't have a code, it just asks you to verify your address. Everyone has the opportunity right now, because we have some free time potentially on our hands. Or if you can't sleep at night, like I had trouble sleeping, I showed my daughter the videos that Dr. Baker and Dr. Tiffany Brown prepared. She actually didn't recognize you, Dr. Brown, because of the hair, right? Because she had just seen you on Saturday, and she's like, oh yeah, wait a minute, what's different here? I said, you tell me what's different. But we can very easily, 9 questions, 10 if you don't have your code, 7 minutes, fill it out, and it will have implication for years to come, all right? At least $7,000 per person is attached to an accurate and complete count. Unfortunately, our communities that would most benefit from the potential funding and or policies attached to a complete and accurate count are those that are hardest to count right now. So our seniors, our children 0 to 5, our renters, our low-income communities, poor people. I always go between low-income and poor. We're talking about poor people here. Households that don't speak English as a first language, our immigrant populations, our special needs communities. All of these communities right now need to be reminded, hence announcing to each other that we have a census. We have not received word from any of the census teams that the census will either be postponed or extended. But we can also rally in communicating that this is a hard time for people to complete the census. Let's make sure that we also vocalize that to our officials, right? So that we take into consideration either extending and or postponing it, given that many of our trusted messengers in the communities that are hardest to count have also, because of COVID-19, been forced to limit and suspend their in-person outreach efforts. So I want to stress that very much as an announcement. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Be safe and take care of yourselves, everyone.